The old stones of the Alamo stand silent under the Texas moon. The year is 1836. The air smells of gunpowder and blood. 200 men made their last stand here, facing an army of thousands. Among them, a legend. A man in a coonskin cap who laughed in the face of death. They called him Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier. On the 13th day, the walls fell. Crockett fought like a demon possessed. His rifle, Old Betsy, firing until the barrel burned his hands. And when the Mexican soldiers finally overwhelmed him, his last words, they burned his body with the others. The stories whispered around campfires say something peculiar happened that night. As the smoke cleared, a figure stood watching from the ruins. Not a man. Not anymore. Something else. Davy Crockett's spirit lingered, bound to the land. He died defending. The years turned to decades. The decades to centuries. The Alamo became a shrine. Then a tourist stop, surrounded by a bustling modern city. But the spirit waited, watching, listening, for the day Texas would need him again. Jake Reyes never believed in ghosts. The 22-year-old history major walked past the Alamo every day on his way to class at UT San Antonio. He liked the quiet of the old mission in the early mornings before the tourists arrived. Sometimes, he'd sit on a bench and imagine he could hear echoes of that long-ago battle. Then came the day everything changed. It started with the news reports. A militia group, called the Texas Patriots, had seized control of a military armory near the border. Their leader, Vance Kruger, gave fiery speeches about true Texans and taking back our state. The governor called them terrorists. The president threatened martial law. That night, Jake dreamed of the Alamo. Not the cleaned-up version visitors saw, but the real thing. The stench of blood, black powder, the screams of dying men, and standing amid the chaos, a figure in buckskin who turned and looked straight at him. "You're needed, son," the ghost of Davy Crockett said. Then the dream ended. Jake woke with a start. The old Crockett biography he'd been reading before bed lay open on his chest. Outside his window, the Alamos bell tolled twice, though everyone knew the mission's bell hadn't worked in years. What followed were days of strange occurrences, whispers in empty rooms, the smell of campfires where none burned, shadows that moved against the light. Always that same dream. The Alamo under siege, Crockett's ghost watching him with knowing eyes. Then came the night. Jake finally listened. He stood before the Alamo at midnight, the modern city lights fading away, until only the old mission remained. The air grew thick with the scent of gunpowder. A cold wind carried voices, speaking Spanish, English, the cries of battle. And then, he appeared. V. Crockett's ghost materialized from the mist, as real as the ground beneath Jake's feet. His buckskins were tattered from battle, his face lined with age and wisdom, but his eyes, those burned with the same fire that had defied Santa Anna's army. "Took you long enough," Crockett said with a grin. What Crockett told Jake that night would change his life forever. The spirit explained that some men's souls were entombed, while the ideals they fought for still needed defending. That Texas faced a new kind of threat, one that wrapped itself in the flag while betraying everything it stood for. Kruger's militia wasn't fighting for freedom. They were fighting to replace one tyranny with another. And just like in 1836, someone had to stand against them. Crockett pressed an old hunting knife into Jake's hand, the very blade he'd carried at the Alamo. The moment Jake's fingers closed around the worn bone handle, knowledge flooded his mind. How to track, how to fight, how to lead. "You ain't alone in this," son Crockett said as he faded into the night. "Just remember, it ain't about winning. It's about standing." The days that followed were a blur. Jake found others who sensed the wrongness in Kruger's movement. A retired Army sergeant, a tech-savvy activist, a rancher who remembered his grandfather's stories of the Alamo. Together, they became the resistance Kruger hadn't expected. When the final confrontation came, it was at an old ranch outside San Antonio. Bullets flew. Kruger's men outnumbered them, 5-1. Bullets flew. The night burned with muzzle flashes. Impossibly ghostly figures appeared among the defenders. Men in buckskins and ragged uniforms. The spirits of the Alamo, fighting one last time. Kruger saw them too. His face went pale. His hand shook as he raised his pistol. That hesitation was all Jake needed. As dawn broke over the battlefield, it was over. Kruger's militia scattered. The threat was ended. And standing beside Jake in the morning light, just for a moment, they say, legends never die. Maybe some spirits are too stubborn to quit. Or maybe it's the ideas they fought for that keep calling them back. Freedom, justice, the right to stand tall and say no to tyranny. Jake Reyes keeps that old hunting knife on his wall now. Sometimes, when the moon is full and the wind blows just right from the direction of the Alamo, he could swear he hears fiddle music on the breeze. And, in the shadows of the old mission, if you look at just the right angle at just the right time, see a figure in buckskin keeping watch, waiting for the next time Texas needs him.